Welcome to Variety Tech Today. Today we got a special guest joining us from across the pond. We got Andrew Murchie from Deep Vision Studios, and more prominently, we know their label. Well, actually, they have two labels. They have EyePop-3D and more recently Plan D. So, Andrew, how you doing?
Hi, Jonathan. I'm doing very good. How are you?
Good. So, tell me about yourself. Tell me about the company.
Well, essentially, Deep Vision was was the kind of company I set up when I left. I was in a marketing agency for many years. So when I left, I set up Deep Vision, which was effectively doing a lot of VR corporate kind of work. So in fact, the way it kind of is if I'm doing corporate projects, which I still do, then I do that through Deep Vision Studios, and it tends to be like I'm still involved in kind of VR projects here, but of course I insist they're stereoscopic because that's just my thing. It's like what I've been interested in for as long as I can remember. So yeah, so that the Deep Vision side is more the stereoscopic thing, and then I've been making 3D films like yourself for many years. I did a whole lot of shorts way back in 2011, I think I started, something like that. I'd kind of started just before the home sort of camcorders had come out, but what I was doing was actually just shooting stuff in 2D and compositing it into 3D in After Effects. So I was always experimenting with all that kind of stuff. So anyway, and then more recently, the whole conversion thing, because of how AI has evolved and really taking I guess, a lot of the heavy lifting of creating depth maps, I saw that, and of course I'm just interested in all the stuff anyway. So I thought, well, let's see if I can do a whole movie. I actually thought, I wonder what I'm going to do next. So I've got a few ideas for like feature films and like this and that, and then of course I just stumbled across the conversion thing, and it's now it's sort of developed a life of its own.
In one of your recent blog posts, you mentioned how that's been a healthy dose of the recent Blu-ray releases that have been coming from iPop and in the lack of major studio output.
Well, exactly. I mean, I wrote a blog post which you featured in prominently as well, because between the two of us, I don't even know, I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but there was something like maybe 25 3D Blu-rays had come out this year, and actually there was only 4 or 5 from major studios. 3D Film Archive have maybe, I think they've only brought one film out, actually brought it out this year. And you know, Turbine, was it this year or last year? Anyway, the point is, we've actually done a lot and brought a lot of kind of 3D product to the market. And in fact, I think by the end of the year, fingers crossed, we'll probably have done another half a dozen discs through Plan D, which, you know, it's a huge, like massive, crazy level of 3D that we brought out. To a certain extent, I have to be careful though, because I do worry that we're kind of flooding the market, and you know we're gonna run out of steam and run out of energy, and you know the market's already, as you know, it's a very, very niche market anyway. So you're selling very small quantities, and you know, and it gets to the point, well, I could almost, it may be better if I just did 1 or 2 a year as opposed to bringing a whole lot out. But I just don't know. You know, it's almost guesswork. It's like when I was chatting with Phil Williams, who is involved with iPop. When I was chatting to him, it's like, we don't know what titles will sell. We know some. You know, like his Superman disc, I said to him, and I think he was pretty confident, you know, that people are definitely going to want that. And I mean, he brought out really, really, like, $13.99 or something. I'm like, I was arguing to, you know, say, that's a bit like, you know, $13.99. But, you know, and that has gone phenomenally well. But again, then you do other discs, and you just hope they sell.
Yeah, and uh, going back to the other major studios and other efforts like 3D Film Archive, like with you with EyePop, and to some extent with me with some discs I've done, public domain content is in some cases bread and butter. So and when you got 3D Film Archive and even Turbine, I'm sure they would like to do more, but they're at the mercy of the studios when it comes to licensing
Exactly.
and stuff. So really, the stuff that Turbine will be coming out with, they've teased a number of titles over the next year. It's a good amount, but in the meantime, like you said, we're
Yeah,
filling this little niche in time.
got to try and keep stuff going, and keep. I mean, I hate to say keep 3D alive because it's kind of, I'm not on a mission to keep it alive. That's not the truth. I'm doing it because I'm interested in it and I like it, and it's really nice when other people like it, and to the extent that we can actually make a bit of money on it, it's fantastic, but of all of us, when I'm saying us, you, Phil Williams, Alex, who's done a couple of conversions, and myself, I think I'm the only one who doesn't work, but that's because I'm really sort of semi-retired. So the deep vision stuff, I do as and when projects come up. I don't like chase it massively, but I know that everyone else involved in these kind of smaller scale things, this is very much a sort of side hustle, as opposed to a kind of full-time job.
So you mentioned Phil and Alex. Tell me a little about them.
So I actually, I'd kind of gone to I think an AV forum where I think most people who've looked into this will have stumbled across it. There's a forum where there was a lot of chat about conversion stuff, and I'd seen something that Phil had shared somewhere, and I'd also somehow picked up that Alex was doing this, and so I'd managed to get in touch with Alex. I'd found out who he actually was, because of course they're all there on their, like, with usernames that you don't know who anyone is. So I managed to track down Alex, and I said to him, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to try and take a whole film and convert it. Do you want to get involved? And then we sort of spoke back and forward and tried to work out how we could do this. And then it kind of made most sense for each of us to try and do our own kind of thing. So yeah, so I met Alex through the forum, and then through tracking down and getting his email address and kind of chatting to him. And I mean, Alex is just so enthusiastic and so positive. Like, he'll smother you with kindness. So he's absolutely fantastic. And I mean, his effort and the time and stuff he puts into his conversions, just absolutely, I mean, mind blowing. House on Haunted Hill was just, I mean, he's up all hours and doing all sorts of mad stuff to make it work. And then I'd seen a clip that Phil had shared somewhere, and then I'd asked Alex, do you know Phil? And he says, oh, this guy. And then again I emailed him and said, this is what we're doing, do you want to kind of come and get involved? And I mean, Phil just threw himself in. He drew the short straw, really, because the first three titles we did, like, I chose Nightmare Castle because I'd already done a bit of it and it was interesting, and like, I'm a horror aficionado, so I love all this kind of stuff. They're really not that keen on horror, so the stuff that they've got done on horror has been kind of almost special. Like, they've quite liked that bit. Anyway, Phil kind of got this short straw because I had worked on Electric Man many years ago. I know the director, and I'd worked on it, and I'd done the title sequence, and I kind of helped fund it, and I'm kind of in one of the scenes in it. It was one of those really little indie films where everybody's through together. And so I thought, well, rather than only do public domain films, why don't I speak to the director and say, well, look, we'll kind of split the proceeds and we'll convert it. And of course, the film to convert was actually the toughest job. I mean, there was just so many things. I guess with our experience now, when we see a film, you could almost watch it and you know what's going to be problematic now. You know, when I started, I was like, oh, I don't know, we just do a test and we'll see. So Electric Man was really difficult, and of course, then on top of it being really difficult to do, it then turned out the Kickstarter didn't make it. So we were like, oh shit, we've got this conversion that we did, you know, that just can't make it. And I mean, it's still we've sold maybe I don't know 150 copies or something, which it's something. But like our hopes for it were kind of an awful lot bigger. So that what I was going to say about Alex and Phil. Alex and Phil are both fantastically funny. You know what it's like on Facebook. You get people who are not very pragmatic, very, very opinionated, and can be quite difficult. And of course, I'm going in to speak to these people that I don't know who Alex is and I didn't know who Phil was. But I tell you, I couldn't have got two more fun, nice guys to work with. They've both got such great sense of humour. And Phil is so, it's kind of, he's almost got a British sense of humour, you know, it's quite kind of, well, not entirely sarcastic, but there's a lot of irony and stuff, which, you know, I could have reached out to the wrong people and ended up with like a nightmare. But no, it's been absolutely, you know, fantastic. And Phil's in Texas, and Alex is in Cincinnati. So of course the other thing is when we're communicating, we chat pretty much every day. There's all sorts of chat about how's this, what's that, you know, how did you do that. But of course I get up in the morning and I've got all their chats from the night before. So much like this, it's just kind of scheduling. So there's a little bit where we kind of cross over. Although Phil is a bit of an insomniac, so he's often still up. When I get up in the morning, I'm sometimes up like 6:30. He's still up at his computer working on a conversion. I mean, he's a madman. He's obsessed.
So, speaking of conversion, I can understand some people might be skeptical. They've heard tales about, you know, how conversions are bad, only native is good. Some of these tales dating back well over a decade, not really relevant at this point in technology. So tell me about the quality of your conversions, what it entails, and how the results.
Well, I would say, I mean, I would actually agree that some early conversions and some conversions that are kicking about are actually really like unwatchable. There's
Clash of the Titans comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that was a studio title. The stuff that's happening now, especially with like Owl-3D, where it's pretty much a one click and something comes out the other end. What the problem is the people just doing it maybe don't spot all the flaws. And I don't know if it's just this rush of excitement and positivity. And I probably wasn't quite as bad at some of the stuff I would share, but like having done this for like a couple of years now, really, now anything starts to bug me if I see a flaw in it. So the stuff that we're doing, you know, again, something like Owl-3D, if you set it to be very, very mild, you'll actually get a decent result in maybe, you know, again, depending on the quality of the source footage, but you might get a decent result in like even 80% of the shots, you know. Keep it mild, you'll get a decent looking thing. But that 10 or 20% of other shots, you know, you'll have things where it gets the depth so incredibly wrong, so heads will be on walls and things are just in totally the wrong place. So what we do though is, I mean, we take the film, we break it up into every shot, and we go through every individual shot so that we can kind of get the best 3D experience for it, which doesn't mean sort of maximizing the 3D. It just means looking at it and trying to make it as natural as it should be, So, you know, so that if, again, going back to this whole owl one-click idea, if you just switch your volume on your TV to full all the time, you know, you've got like, and if you turn it down, you've got no, you know, no variety. So really that's what we're doing, is going through shot by shot. Anything that we see that's wrong, we then have to decide how we fix it. And this is where I guess the difference between EyePop and Plan D comes in. In EyePop, we would typically do a lot of stuff almost like the studios would do, where we're rotoscoping, we're just cutting out things and doing loads and, you know, loads of really intensive, very slow, hard work. Whereas with Plan D, we've kind of got other workarounds. So it may be, not giving away any secrets here, maybe though, you know, you get a few shots that look absolutely phenomenal and actually take very little effort to get looking good, and then you hit a shot where no matter what you do, you're just not going to get the perfect, you know, result you're after. So in that case, we maybe tone it down, or, you know, we switch to only converting one eye and keeping the other, and then try and work on the warping in the one eye. So, you know, there's lots of fiddly things like that. And I mean, based on the feedback from everyone, and again, I mean, you know, again, I'm British, so I'm not likely to go, oh, we're the greatest thing. You know, I'm not like that. I feel uncomfortable being too. I mean, I can force myself to be like that, but I'm not naturally very show-offy. And so I think the quality, though, based on what everyone else has said, really ranges from like very good to, you know, people are going, well, let's say from good to people are going, wow, this is as good as a Hollywood conversion. And I mean, you think about that, again, you'll know all this stuff. A Hollywood conversion is going to cost two and a half million to 5 million typically now, I think, you know, versus what we're doing, where we're selling a couple of hundred copies, 200-300 copies of something for, you know, maybe our profit on it, I don't even know, you know, let's say we're not even getting 100th probably of what you'd get for a Hollywood conversion, yet people are saying this is as good as that. I don't think they are as good as Hollywood conversions, so I wouldn't say that myself. Like what Marvel does, I mean, is just astounding, you know. But I think we've got really good, and actually they've improved as they've gone on. So I think Nightmare Castle, when I look at it now, I see flaws and stuff. I think, well, it was really, you know, I'm glad I did it. And, you know, I'm glad it worked, but now if I look at it, I think, oh, I could do so much better. And I think, like this, the current one, the Carnival of Souls that Alex has done, is just phenomenal. There's some of the shots in this are so deep that, like, I know he's done massive roto to get it to work. And the next title that I've got coming out as well on the EyePop thing, I'm so pleased with. So yeah, so the next one, as I've mentioned, that I'm doing, is, it was going to be actually done as a Plan D kind of release, and then as I worked through it, I was doing so many bits and pieces, and it was actually starting to look so good. I thought, no, you know, I really just need to do everything I can to make this look like so cool. So we then decided, okay, we're going to do this as an EyePop release, and, you know, it can have all the bells and whistles, and we'll do the Kickstarter and have all the fancy goodies and all that stuff that you ship out for us. And so what I thought, if you wanted, is I could give you a little clip here, and you could let everyone see kind of where I'm going with the Phantom Planet.
All right, let's take a watch.
Cool.
Miles out. out at 270 degrees azimuth and 47 degrees ecliptic. Speed 4.6 miles per second.
Check. Computer guidance on. Stability course on. Direction of rocket's port off. Direction of rocket starboard off. Set to automatic.
Check. That does it, Captain. We can relax a bit now.
Takeoff's always the same. My heart pounds like a sledgehammer.
Yeah, mine too.
How about the screen? Never fails to fascinate me from up here.
You know, Captain, every year of my life, I grow more and more convinced that the wisest and best is to fix our attention on the good and on the beautiful. If you'll just take the time to look at it.
Here's some guy, McConan.
Lunar Base 1 to Pegasus 4. Lunar Base 1 to Pegasus 4. Can you read me?
This is Pegasus 4 to Lunar Base 1. This is Lieutenant McConan.
Colonel Lansfield for Captain Chapman.
Chapman standing by.
Anything out there, Frank?
Nothing, Colonel. It's almost too quiet.
Well, keep alert. And don't waver off your course 1 degree, unless you think you're on to something. And if you do get onto something, report at once.
Yes, sir. Pegasus 4 to Lunar Base 1. Over. Out.
I hope whatever was out there is gone now.
Miles out at 270 degrees azimuth and 47 degrees ecliptic. Speed 4.6 miles per second.
Check. Computer guidance on. Stability course on. Direction of rocket's port off. Direction of rocket starboard off. Set to automatic.
Check. That does it, Captain. We can relax a bit now.
Takeoff's always the same. My heart pounds like a sledgehammer.
Yeah, mine too.
How about the screen? Never fails to fascinate me from up here.
You know, Captain, every year of my life, I grow more and more convinced that the wisest and best is to fix our attention on the good and on the beautiful. If you'll just take the time to look at it.
Here's some guy, McConan.
Lunar Base 1 to Pegasus 4. Lunar Base 1 to Pegasus 4. Can you read me?
This is Pegasus 4 to Lunar Base 1. This is Lieutenant McConan.
Colonel Lansfield for Captain Chapman.
Chapman standing by.
Anything out there, Frank?
Nothing, Colonel. It's almost too quiet.
Well, keep alert. And don't waver off your course 1 degree, unless you think you're on to something. And if you do get onto something, report at once.
Yes, sir. Pegasus 4 to Lunar Base 1. Over. Out.
I hope whatever was out there is gone now.
That was awesome.
Well, thank you. No, it's yeah. You know, it's I was gonna say it's a kind of 1950s or 60s B sci-fi film. So you know, it's not going to win awards for its script or anything. But actually, it's come out really good. I'm really pleased with it. I've just got a few little bits to kind of tweak, and then it will be ready to go as well.
So a few times we've been mentioning EyePop and Plan D. Care to get into a little bit the difference between those brands, those labels?
Okay, so essentially when we started, we did. It was just going to be EyePop, and you know the big focus was on, I guess, making sure that people understood if this had this name on it, what we were standing for. You know, we're not just chucking out one-click conversions. We're going to put all our time and effort into making a really good conversion, some really nice packaging, some nice extras, and also bonus features. If we cut down all of that, then I can just concentrate on doing a good conversion, We don't need to. We don't go over the top with packaging and lobby cards and this and that, and a month-long Kickstarter campaign, and then all the fulfillment of that. EyePop is the sort of the premium sub-brand, and Plan D is just the more budget version. But in both cases, we're really doing our damnedest to make good conversions. I mean, to the extent that the reviews online have pretty much said, oh, well, this Plan D disc is better than what you've done for EyePop, and it's partially because as times evolve, we've got better. The AI technology, the sort of the AI models that are producing the source depth maps to start with have been getting better. So, it's just, and our experience just means we can do stuff faster, because you look at a shot, you go, yeah, that's good, or I just tweak this and then it kind of works. We use different software though, so like Phil and Alex use DaVinci Resolve primarily. I'm an After Effects user. I've used it for about 20 odd years. So we have different things. In After Effects, I've actually essentially built a template system whereby I have one big screen of all the controls. So I can sit there and change the controls on the fly and see if I can fix problems, or if in fact I can, like this looks like it could do with a bit more depth. I can very easily tweak things to get it to work. Also, on Plan D, I thought, when I was doing it, I thought, well, I know these titles might not sell as well, so I can also, because I'm not putting 6 months of my life into a project, I can do kind of slightly things that please me a bit more. So, like the Conversion Curiosities, which was, a whole load of unusual kind of, I guess, sort of surrealist films and experimental films and art films. I could do that. I was doing it as much for me as for releasing, and for me, it's one of the discs I'm most proud of. I'm so pleased with it, and I got to do not just the conversion, but a lot of the films were silent, so I could actually work on soundtracks and make some really interesting kind of weird soundscapes for these surrealist films. So yeah, I'm just so proud of it, of that one, as well.
So with these EyePop projects, customers do have options. Like for instance, here's The Last Man on Earth. You can buy the basic Blu-ray, which of course is the meat of the whole thing, but also have options like slip covers. Lots of collectors like slip covers. This movie in particular comes with an awesome extra, which is a physical comic book in Anaglyph 3D. And there's you call them platinum packs, and
yes.
So all of the premium EyePop releases so far have these platinum pack options if you want to add that onto it. And during the Kickstarters, you got other one-of-a-kind options.
All sorts of crazy things. Wait till you see the next one.
And as for Plan D, you had the idea of releasing an initial title, Free D1, which is nice samplers. It has the Three Stooges on it. We know back in the day, Legend 3D, which did theatrical conversions, they did a Three Stooges collection, but conversion technology has increased since then, so this is even stronger 3D than that one.
Yeah,
and it uses a better quality master too, because that used a standard def, and this is HD. So
yeah, I had the Three Stooges disc. Well, I still have, and I went and watched it, and I thought, I mean, again, I'm not really not big-headed, but I'm like, wow. So I wrote a blog piece about that because I'd looked at the credits, and for the one set, I think it was like a 17-minute short film, there was something like, I think 65 people had worked on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 65 versus me. It's like...
Well, that was the way the technology was back then. I mean, yeah.
Exactly. I think if you were hand drawing depth maps, that was... I mean, I tried it at the time, and I'm like, nah, life's too short for me to be sitting doing this. And one of the guys that actually worked with me on Crime Squad, he was a sort of Polish stereographer, and he'd moved to Edinburgh, and of course the whole 3D world is so small that you know, as soon as you're somewhere and someone knows anything about 3D, you kind of, you know, you end up meeting each other. So he, though, had actually been involved in doing stuff with hand-drawn depth maps, and he'd been out in India doing conversions and all sorts of stuff. But wow, that is tough. You know, that must have been tough. Now, I'm not saying it's the easiest job in the world, but not having to do the depth maps is, yeah. I wouldn't even try it otherwise. It's just not really worth it.
And like you were saying earlier about Plan D letting you experiment with the different stuff, I really like that, branching out into different genres. Like with EyePop, you have to be deliberate. There's a definite investment ahead of time. More physical items part of the package, more manual work, but and you got to think of what's commercially viable. It's just a reality. But I really liked Phil's recent conversions. He came up with a couple that are His Girl Friday, Superman.
They've both gone down phenomenally well. I mean, really, the feedback that we're getting is just superb. And I mean, you know, Phil is fantastic at this. I have learned a lot through working with him, because he's so super sensitive to like 3D artifacts, like from conversion, that he can say to me, Andrew, look at that shot, because XYZ's wrong with it. And I'll go and look, and I won't even see what's wrong with it. And he's seeing things, and I'm like, and eventually I might find out, and it'll be like half a pixel, and it's bothered him, you know, enough. Which again, on EyePop discs, is fantastic, because we go and we try and, you know, squash everyone we can. On Plan D, I might go, Phil, it's half a pixel, I'm just letting it go, you know. But yeah, he's fantastic, and that's the thing. He's like, well, you know, I'm not spending 6 months of my life on this. I'm spending a few weeks. I'm spending my spare time for maybe a month or whatever, you know, doing this. So, like, if it sells, it's great. If it doesn't sell, well, you know, that's too bad. I think it is a bit of a learning, though, because there was a sort of a bit of chat about this on one of the forums, and Phil quite rightly said, well, you know, His Girl Friday it's a great film, and it looks phenomenal in 3D. I mean, I think it just looks astounding. But, you know, realistically, unless it's going to sell, you know, not the same as an iPop disc, but unless it's going to sell a reasonable number of units, why would you do similar kind of, you know, similar films? If what sells is, you know, B horror movies, then that's probably what we would do most of. It just, you know, it just makes sense. I mean, of course, you'll know, well, I think you'll know, the reality is what we would love to do is to license films and do any film we could dream of. But there's so many issues, even beyond, I mean, the first one is cost. It's not even just the money. If you did have the money to do it, then you've got to negotiate the rights to convert it, because, you know, you can't just go converting someone's films. We already get complaints with our approach now, going, oh, you know, you shouldn't do that. You should leave the director's original vision. You know, I mean, come on, you think the guy who made Frankenstein's daughter really had that much vision? I mean, it looks beautiful, and in 3D it looks even more beautiful, and it's fun and it's crazy, you know. But it's not a vision. I mean, Carnival of Souls did have a vision. You know, you can see it, you can feel it in this movie. But, you know, some of them were throwaway ones. So, you know,
yeah, if you ask me, I would say the colorization is much more intrusive.
I think so,
and it's also more obviously not natural. But something about 3D is just it looks more natural when it's well done, like it is in this case. It can that's less intrusive.
I agree with you entirely. To me, you look at colorized film, if it's done really, really well, it still looks a bit weird.
Yeah,
If
whereas you
it's
can't
done
get around
badly,
that.
it's just atrocious. It's like, what is this mess? Whereas, yeah, 3D, you're intrinsically, when you look at it, you haven't actually changed the film.
Right.
You know, it's just, there's just something a little bit more. So, you know, I don't really go and get involved in the arguments because I don't want to, and I don't have the energy to try and change people's minds. If you want to, you know, have a look at it and then say, I don't like it, that's fine. But then, you know, you get people who just intrinsically go, no, you shouldn't do that. And it's, well, okay, you don't have to do it, you don't have to watch it. But, you know, I'm doing it and it looks really nice. And I like it.
So some films you can kind of get the feel that they would naturally extend into 3D, like Superman. That seems like an obvious 3D candidate on the surface. But then something else like His Girl Friday, which is very not only dialogue heavy, but it's famous for being dialogue heavy.
Yeah,
like it's famous for the extended talking and fast talking. That's the heaviest part of the film, more than the visuals. But I'm one of those folks who wouldn't mind if anything was in 3D. The evening news, the game show, make it 3D. Why not? You know.
You know, on Facebook and other forums, you'll see regularly. You'll see that, oh, what film would be great in 3D, and you'll get all these lists of people throwing in all their favorites. There was one question I was going to suggest, or not a question. Oh yeah, I saw a question. I was going to suggest, and I was going to bring up is like, what film should you not put into 3D? And it's actually really, as soon as I said it to myself at the time, I thought, like, you know, the first film that came to mind was Schindler's List. And I thought, because it would just be wrong. Like, it just is wrong. You know what I mean? And I'm sure there's a lot of films, but that then becomes very serious. You know, I think, for me, what's best in 3D is fun stuff. You know, whether it's a comedy, a cartoon, a B-horror film, a sci-fi movie, even art films. What was the one that came out last year? Black and white. Sorry? No, the black and white one.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Tell you what, we'll look it up or put it up or something. I watched that and it was just beautiful. It was stunning, and I guess it was a serious film. But I think there's some titles that probably wouldn't work. But in most cases, you know, as long as it's a bit of fun, then I think 3D always enhances the fun. Whether it's poking things out at you or not.
So you mentioned you'd like to be able to do certain titles, do more work, and you've got, even though they're not authorized per se, you've got some samples on your YouTube channel. You got samples of, people don't have to take your word for it that the conversions are good. You got samples of all your movies for sale, but you also got samples of Hollywood movies that you've done tests on.
Yeah, well,
trailers.
I mean, that's it. The thing is, you know what YouTube's like, you can't really put something up that's copyright without you getting stopped. Or what in fact happens is obviously they are monetizing it. So
right. So they'll get the revenue from it.
If you share their trailer or whatever, they're getting the advertising from you advertising them. Plus, if there's any money to be made, they get it. Our YouTube channel isn't monetized, so we get literally nothing off that at all. It's purely done for fun. But that sharing some of the trailers has had some amazing results. I mean, we've had, I can't say specifically who, but we've had studios, like big Hollywood studios, contact us.
I was going to say that. I was wondering if that would ever be an option in the future.
Yeah, not to tell us to stop, but to just talk to us.
Yeah.
You know, which is like, whoa, hang on.
So that'd be nice if you could actually be hired for an actual, like a theatrical conversion or something.
Yeah, well, that's
might get to that point.
The
right person notices it.
That's it. We're here. Let me talk to this camera. We're here. We're available. If you got the budget, we'll do an amazing conversion. I was just doing my sales pitch to the camera there, but yeah, no, I mean it would be great. It's just it may come to the point that the public domain kind of landscape. There's a chunk of films that are kind of almost the A tier, even though a lot of people look at them and go, well, they're B movies, but they're the A tier of public domain films, and then you start going down and doing the sort of crazier stuff. Like, I mean, I'm more interested in the crazier stuff in that way anyway, but you start going down, and the problem is, are people going to keep buying it? Or they're going to go, do I really need another mad scientist bringing someone back to life, 1950s B movie converted to 3D? I've seen it, do something different. At which point, obviously, then we would just have to kind of stop doing it. If no one wants it, there's no point us doing it. So it would be nice at some point to think that we can find a suitable partner and kind of work with someone on a kind of bigger scale project. I mean, let's face it, Marvel are never gonna hire us. Marvel will use a huge big VFX studio who will do the most amazing things, and they will have, their execs will tell them, make that thing come out over here a little bit more, and they'll have to do that.
And to be fair, Marvel is basically half native 3D, because they're like do it at the editing level with the layers. So I mean, they do conversions, but it involves a lot of real layers too with the animation.
I mean, that's it. There's so much 3D stuff, as in 3D modeled environments. Yeah. In there,
but EyePop, or it could be a great budget option for something that has all production done in 2D and then add that realistic 3D layer after.
Yeah,
that'd be a great option.
mean, absolutely. I think there's also a whole range of kind of movies out there that could benefit.
And even in the era of the Apple Vision Pro, people want to create more content. There's a demand for more 3D content for video libraries.
Well, that's it. I mean, the whole VR landscape. I mean, it's built for stereoscopy. It's it's 3D ready. I mean, something that I can't believe Apple haven't done it is, as soon as they got into that whole 3D world, and I mean, they made that such a big part of their sales push for their headset, is I don't know why they didn't come out with a glasses-free 3D TV by someone like Looking Glass Factory, and bring out a $30,000 TV that no one can afford. But I mean, the Looking Glass technology is just so good, and then they could plug it into the Apple TV and have glasses-free 3D like they've never seen. I think we're close to that being viable once AI chips catch up so that they're fast enough to do proper multi-view adaptions on the fly. So I'm just surprised that Apple didn't sort of, bring more of a environment. I mean, they've got it on all their phones. They've got 3D cameras on every iPhone. They've got this 3D device. I'm just surprised.
It's certainly heading in the right direction. I mean,
it is.
Camera in every phone, and also the fact that they're using a codec that's not proprietary, which can be future-proof. So yeah. No, I mean,
it's great. And I tell you what, it would be fantastic to get our films onto I was going to say iTunes. It's whatever, Apple TV. But again, like trying to break down any barriers. I mean, trying to share 3D, apart from like putting something on YouTube, it's really difficult. Amazon, if you put 3D in your title, they just block you. Yeah,
we both tried that.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. There must be a way.
But we got all kinds of channels for self-distribution in this day and age. We got manufacturer on demand. Streaming services, so yeah, it's good so far.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're on Netflix, people just find you.
Right.
You know, because everybody's got Netflix.
No,
As soon as
no, we're not going to get on Netflix.
I'm just waiting for them to phone me and go, "Hey, Andrew,
Yes.
we heard about this."
We're gonna bring back 3D.
Yeah, you know it's going to happen at some point, but who knows when? Actually, you know what? I think we may be the last generation that actually does anything with 3D, because the AI is going to get so good that it's not going to need people.
Won't need much manual work.
No, they'll
maybe.
just generate the movie. Just, you know, write the script, generate the movie, put it out 3D, 4D, 5D, whatever you want. You know, it's not. You know, yeah, the AI is what the advancement in the depth analysis AI in the space of like 18 months is just astounding.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know.
Yeah.
And
We couldn't have guessed it
no, I mean,
5 years ago.
we actually, I think Phil and I were chatting and looking back at some of the depth maps on the first films that we put out compared to the depth maps that we have now, and they're like, this one's just like a, you know, the old ones are just like a sort of blurry mess, and the new ones are like absolutely, you know, pristine. You can see teeth and, you know, like there's so much detail. The eyes have got detail, whereas it just used to be a sort of almost a grey blob for a face, you know. Yeah, it's astounding.
Yep.
It's just absolutely amazing.
So, where can people find you? Find more info about the movies, all that stuff.
Well, the best place to go, I mean, they can find me or Phil or Alex. You can chat to us. We're on Facebook. We're in all the 3D Blu-ray groups. We're on Blu-ray.com forums. We're there. So if anyone wants to ask anything, you know, we're totally accessible. The discs are all available from. Best place to start really is just EyePop. EyePop. Let me spell it. EYE.
I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah,
too.
EYEPOP-3D.com. So it's EyePop-3D.com. Plan D is like just a subset of that. On the main page, there's the main EyePop films, and also there's a blog that I try and keep up to date as often as I can, which has got just loads of stuff about what's going on, what we're doing, thoughts, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but that's the one-stop shop where everybody can browse all the titles,
Yes.
pick what they want,
Yes.
and of course your YouTube channel if they want to see samples.
Exactly. I mean,
in
there's
side-by-side
so
format.
much stuff on YouTube. It's just, yeah, it's bursting with 3D content.
Coming at you. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. It was nice having you, and thanks for sharing all that information.
Thank you very much for doing it, and thank you for all your help with this. I don't know if everybody watching realizes, you know, when they talk about the Beatles, they'll often say Brian Epstein, who's the manager, is like the fifth Beatle. I don't know if everyone realizes that you're like the fourth sort of member of EyePop, because you do all the distribution in America, and you know, I'm always saying to you, you're so helpful, and we just get stuff done, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thanks, appreciate it. All right, we'll see you next time on Variety Tech Today.
So what I thought, if you wanted, is I could give you a little clip here, and you could let everyone see kind of where I'm going with the Phantom Planet.
All right, let's take a watch.
Cool.
So.
Now you have to pretend you have to go, wow!
Wow. Okay. That was awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's yeah.